Born from a paradox shaped by loss and bound to an inescapable fate, one person's journey unfolds across time, where past, present, and future collide in a cycle that can never be broken. An agent in a coat and hat walks down a dim hallway carrying two briefcases. He descends a staircase beneath the building, where he finds a hidden time bomb ticking down. Without hesitation, he opens one of his briefcases. Inside is a high-tech gadget. He carefully begins to disarm the bomb. Then he senses someone else nearby. He grabs his gun, scanning the shadows. Before he can react, a shot rings out, hitting him. Gritting his teeth, he fires back. But the bomb is about to explode. He shoves it into the gadget, trying to contain it. Just before he can seal it, the bomb detonates. The explosion burns his face, knocking him back. He screams in agony, reaching for his other briefcase. A figure steps forward. Instead of attacking, the stranger helps him grab the case. They exchange a silent glance before the stranger walks away. The agent, barely conscious, types something into the case and vanishes. When he wakes up, he's in a hospital bed, covered in bandages. His superiors commend his efforts, but tell him to move on. His true target, the Fizzle bomber, is planning a massive attack in New York, 1975. Though told to let go of his failure, the agent is determined to stop him. After resting, the doctor removes his bandages. His face and voice have changed forever. He looks in the mirror at the stranger staring back and silently accepts his new identity. 7 years later, fully recovered, he records his thoughts before his final mission. His superiors arm him and remind him, if he deviates, he will be executed. He nods and takes the same briefcase that nearly cost him his life. At night in a quiet bar, he works as a bartender, waiting. A man in a coat and hat enters, orders a drink. They talk about the Fizzle bomber, but the conversation shifts. The man introduces himself as the unmarried mother, a writer of confession stories. The bartender recognizes his work, surprising the writer. Curious, the bartender asks how he understands a woman's perspective so well. The writer pauses, then says, "I was once a girl." The bartender is stunned. Before he can speak, the writer begins his story. Born on September 13, 1945, abandoned at an orphanage, they named him Jane. As a child, Jane dreamed of space but longed for a family. She was smart, strong, different. That difference made her an outcast. Jane was recruited by Space Corp, a secret government program. She excelled in every test, proving herself. But something was off. A doctor discovered something unusual about her body. Without explanation, she was disqualified. Confused and heartbroken, she packed her things. Robertson, the recruiter, promised to bring her back. Jane knew she couldn't count on Robertson's promise. She had to survive on her own. By day, she worked as a house helper for a cheap, ungrateful family. It was there she discovered confession magazines, which became her escape. At night, she took etiquette classes, struggling to fit in. One rainy evening, she bumped into a man. She apologized, then asked if he was lost. He replied that he was waiting for someone. Jane smiled and said, "Good things happen to those who wait." The man finished the quote, "But only the things left behind by those who hustle." Jane was amazed. They were thinking the same thing. She described the man to the bartender. He was handsome, confident, rich enough to take care of her. She fell for him, and for a while she was happy. The bartender scoffed, as if he already knew how it ended. Jane asked if he had ever done something stupid for love. He nodded. Then she told him the worst part. One day the man asked her to wait on a bench. He promised he'd come back. But he never did. She convinced herself it was just a fling and moved on, still hoping to rejoin Space Corp. Then Robertson reappeared. He admitted that Space Corp wasn't about space travel. It was a secret agency that recruited people with no ties to the past or future. People like Jane. She was ready for a new life. Then she realized she was pregnant. Robertson vanished. Jane gave birth in a charity ward, alone. The nurses delivered a healthy baby girl. Jane felt overjoyed, until the doctor asked if she'd ever been told about her body. Confused, Jane said no. The doctor explained she had both male and female reproductive organs. The female side had been enough to carry a baby, but due to complications, they had to remove it. Now she would have to transition fully into a man. Jane was devastated. Still, she loved her daughter and wanted to name her after herself. But before she could build a future, the baby was stolen, kidnapped from the hospital. She was shattered. 11 months and multiple surgeries later, she looked in the mirror and saw a man. Jane was gone. The reflection reminded her of the person who ruined her life. Rejected by Space Corp again, she changed her name, moved to New York, and became the unmarried mother, writing confession stories to survive. The bartender then asked if she had the chance to kill the man who ruined her life, would she? Without hesitation, John said yes. The bartender smiled. "I can take you to him." The agent returns to his failed mission and spots the Fizzle bomber setting up a bomb. A gunfight erupts and the bomber flees into a dark basement. As the agent searches, the bomber ambushes him, landing a powerful punch. Moments later, the agent hears familiar gunshots and rushes to the bomb site, witnessing his past self at the moment of his facial injury. He helps his younger self reach the field kit before watching him time travel away. Realizing his failure is inevitable, the agent picks up a piece of the bomb and jumps again. In 1964, the agent processes his emotions, preparing for his next mission. Meanwhile, in 1963, John and Jane share coffee. Jane admits she isn't a friendly person, but John already understands why. He reveals her deepest thoughts, surprising her with how much they think alike. John jokes that he can read minds, prompting Jane to challenge him. He describes her struggles and longing for love, and though she resists at first, she slowly falls for him. Elsewhere, the agent meets Robertson at a hospital. He hands over the bomb fragment, revealing he made an illegal jump. Robertson tolerates it, believing unrestricted agents save more lives. The agent hesitates about his next task, knowing Jane will suffer. But Robertson insists the mission must proceed to ensure the existence of an agent with no ancestry, no past. The agent then takes Jane's baby and time travels to 1945, leaving the infant at an orphanage doorstep, the start of the cycle. He calls the baby both Jane and John before departing. Back in 1963, John and Jane sit on a bench. The agent watches from a distance. When John sees him, he tells Jane to wait and confronts the agent, gun drawn. The agent reveals the truth, who Jane was, who John has become, and who the agent is. John, stunned, looks at Jane one last time before accepting his fate. The agent takes him to headquarters, where his transformation begins. Robertson tells the agent that John must endure his life struggle to become the person who prevents crimes. In 1975, the agent expects his time machine to decommission, but it doesn't. Instead, he receives a final mission, finding the Fizzle bomber. John discovers the bomber is an older version of himself. The bomber urges him not to kill him, claiming it will break the cycle. But John pulls the trigger, and the paradox continues. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. See you in the next one.